Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 Agency.
Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta L. Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. Well, this season has been all about talking about B2B, right? Businesses who target businesses. And so that is their client base. And they probably do work with individuals. But for the most part, that's what we want to talk about is in this B2B space and making sure that there is a platform, which Black Businesses Matter certainly provides that platform where people can log on and hear about B2B businesses, whether they are working, for a company and they're looking for a particular business, or perhaps they're looking for that business to solve their problem. So I'm excited to bring our next guest on because, as I mentioned to you all, there's so many thriving Black businesses that we get to sit down with. But this one right here is special because I got a chance to meet her personally. And not all the time I get to meet people personally, but got a chance to meet with her personally, connect with her. And then we are going to do some great business together. So that's the part that is amazing. And then she gets to be on the podcast. So you guys are in for a treat for this dynamic, award-winning professional who has built an amazing company. She serves as the managing consultant of the Kyra company. She is an exceptional leader, an exceptional customer service and operational management leader, and she's an effective communicator in the knack of developing cohesive and production teams. She is experienced in the development of both process and policy, right? And I want to say that process and policy, because a lot of times, right, we don't see that in the policy making as a dynamic business owner and one that is Black owned and woman owned. She has experience in providing a broad spectrum approach to addressing opportunities within any organization, creating a delicate balance between people and the process. And I'm excited to have her on the show. She's going to tell you about what her company is doing right now with a major brand that is a bank. A large bank. I think it's a global bank. And so she's going to talk a little bit about what her company is doing to help businesses all over the world. And I think that's important. So if you're listening to this podcast, you need to tune in and pay attention because you might be maybe washing clothes. I don't know, picking up kids, whatever you're doing. This episode, if you really want to learn how you can accelerate in business, Kyra's going to tell us a little bit more about that. So you may want to just sit down for a minute, pull out a journal, pull out some stuff, and allow yourself to hear from Kyra Rénel. Hello, Kyra. Welcome to the show.
Oh, hello, Larvetta. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. What an incredible introduction. And, I'm like, let me take some notes so I can make sure I follow up on those points you lifted because, I love the fact that we get to do business. And I love the fact that I happen to be a Black woman that is excelling in this space. And I love the fact that I get to do this kind of work and have conversations with you that really do matter and that really do elevate and amplify the importance of collaboration and sharing and providing and producing and staying in the zone of excellence. And so all of those things kind of popped up into mind for me as you were really just warming up the audience of the podcast. So hello to your listeners.
Yes, Kyra Rénel. And I just want to say it because it's so cute. And you are cute. That's for sure. Guys, before we dive into this award-winning professional leader in this space of nonprofit management and corporate management, we like to ask this question. So tell us, Kyra, how were you as a little girl? Like, who was Kyra as a little girl?
Oh my God. Okay. So listen, Kyra as a little girl, just happy-go-lucky. Probably couldn't find the problem if I tried. The sunshine was always brighter than the darkest side. I've always kind of walked with my hand on my hip and ready for a camera. That probably has something to do with my father being a photographer.
Oh, nice.
I know, right? As a middle child, I think all of that. And then I also met some challenges around 16 years old and, really walked into a zone where my self-esteem was a challenge and my relationship value was a challenge. Definitely a product. In that time, I was a latchkey kid. And also my parents were in two different places and households. So I have a lot of the makeup and fabric of probably some Gen Xers, right? And I think for me, as a kid, I just became resilient. I learned how to look for the best possible way out of circumstances, because I do know survival mode was a big deal, and really was until into my adulthood. You kind of pick up a lot of those characteristics along the way, just so you can make it. And so, ups and downs, highs and lows. There's definitely a rags to riches story behind there, but there's also this. I think for me right now, this story of this little girl that was so resilient and always saw the sunlight. She always saw an opportunity. That's really who I was, who I've become even more of. And today I can really just stand very strong and say, I'm still that woman. I'm still that little girl. She's still very much so, the core of my DNA. Like I always look for the better option. I always say there's always another way. There's always another way to get something done. Step back, look at it one more time and think about how you can maneuver. And maybe that's where the strategist in me was born, and figuring it out. So, I mean, I could tell you all the stories. I could tell you about suicide attempts. I could tell you about low self-esteem. I could tell you about relationships that were, emotionally abusive. But I think I'd rather tell you that as I walked through that, there was something in me. I got something in me at inception that would just turned on this resilience meter in me, and it just won't let me stop, thriving for what's next. So that's who she was. That's who she is. And that's who I am right now.
And that's who. Yeah. And so as you think about that, we were having this meeting last week, I think Katori and I, and Katori, you guys, is associate producer. And we were talking about blending, our audience into like the Gen Z, and making sure that our Gen Z community can tap into something to help them, right?
Yeah.
So that they're not disconnected or removed from, because you see us as businesses and working with corporate, but like that journey sometimes is right. They don't see it, right? They see Kyra as like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. She's this, and she is. And so at that point, I'm just going to ask you, this is a question that we haven't really really talked about, but I'm going to throw it at you a little bit, Kyra, because you said some things that I think would be important for our Gen Z community is, what would you, and we've heard this, what would you tell that little girl? But more important, what would you tell that little girl at that moment when you were faced with, oh my gosh, attempting suicide, low self-esteem? Like, what would you tell them right now, from a place of I was where you are, and I still have to work through that, right? So that it's not she only knows better because she's older, or she only knows better because she's a mama, or she's an auntie, or whatever the case may be. But that to really, like when you said it, it's like when we go back to little girl, we do that so that there is some level of like relatability. I can do this, right? And we know, I'm sure people that are listening have or know someone who attempted suicide. Whether you attempted, went through with it, somebody knows somebody. That I know for sure. And so what would you tell them at this moment, in this place that they're in right now, of low self-esteem?
Yeah. Well, I'll first say this. I'm the parent of Gen Zs, and I literally invest in them. And this is what I share with them. Your friends matter. Your family matters. Your value system around your friendships matter. And wherever you have the ability, because typically when you're in the zone, I'll call it kind of that little dark bubble, you don't really know what you need. You just know what you have is not enough. And I'm going to say, work ahead of time to really build great relationships. You need people around you that will call you to the carpet, that will fight for your well-being, that will help you see yourself on the days you can't see yourself. And if I could think about what made that important, made it possible, I think, for me to become a bit more resilient in that time and see myself differently. One, it was my relationships. I had some key friendships that I could tap into, that I could tell my secrets to. At that time, I couldn't really tell them to my parents per se.
Yep.
And then the other side of it, I'm going to say, is their parents. And so sometimes when you have that non-biased parent or parent figure in your life, they're of great value. And so if you're thinking about your social community, I want you to also think about their parents and their relationships, because those are also value adds to you. So that's one way to look at it. Part of the power of answering that question, Lavetta, is really, I'll use this story of something I did with my own child, which was asking her, what do you need from yourself, basically? And she said, I need me to be my friend. And I think the power in that was so incredible, that it shined a light back to me on the work that we do with you, the work that we've done internally in our space, right? To be able to, in our home, I'll say, to just be able to really connect. And that's where it starts. And so I just wanted to drive it all the way back. This is a start at home, have the conversation at home, take it out to the community, then in your friend groups, then in your colleges, your universities, then into your workplaces. Like, this thing has to become a part of our community fabric. Is to have conversations that drive us into understanding our own value, what we need from ourselves, the idea of, self-care and all that good stuff is great, but I think the understanding of what that means is bigger. And so you asked me, what do we need to get all the way back to that? That little girl, I think, is to be honest with ourselves, or that young man, to be honest with ourselves, so that as adults, we don't have to deal with these issues.
Yeah, that's good. The reason why I was so fascinated with really engaging our Gen Z is because they are faced with so much more than, first of all, they're in the space of technology. Everything they need, they can tap, they can get money, Cash App, right? They can swipe. They can do all these things. And then I realize, but they don't have the basic process of it all, right? Which is what, when I think about your business and process and policy in that space, if it lets me know that that's the part that is missing in a lot of places, because we don't process, right? That generation, and in some cases, we all are guilty of it, because when our phone doesn't work, we freak out. Like, oh my gosh, wait, I can't get any messages. That was me last Wednesday and yesterday. So, we all freak out and think like, oh my gosh, what happens? And so, an understanding what that process looks like. And the other reason why I want to bring up is one thing that I absolutely think is so adorable was to see, I'm talking about Renaissance Tour with Beyonce, allowing her daughter to shine on her own. I thought that was powerful. But then the other part that I thought was so unique was that her grandmother is like, she dope, she fly. But what she didn't do was put her daughter in that post. I thought that was so powerful. Like, she was able to shine on her own and deal with that. But then it sets her up to be able to, you know, to create, because we all know that there are trolls and those things happen. But when I saw it, that was the one thing that I feel like Gen Z gets that we don't, but we didn't have, right? Your grandmother posting you at a glorious time in your life, to be able to see that. Now she's a little younger, you know, from a Gen Z, but the process of that, I thought that was important. Like, to be able to hold on to, my grandmother posted this.
Yeah. You hit something really powerful. I think not only does she have her own light, that identity that she has is her own.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with multiple generations of celebrity, you are attached to, you know, your parental, you know, your parent or your other relative that has paved the way for you. But she has identity. And I love how vocal. I mean, I am in love with how vocal Gen Z is. Yeah. And you are spot on. And I will say this publicly, that my daughter's like, don't ever say this publicly, but I'm gonna say it. I'll say it like this. I became such an enthusiast behind Beyonce and the enterprise of experience that she creates. Yeah. And that was as a result of this concert experience, down to just the community's commitment to create an experience that she called for. And I'm like, what phone call did you guys get on that she told everybody what to wear, everybody how to cooperate? How do we know? The collective social is so powerful. And so I'm just going to say that. And I think that what you pulled forward with Blue is so important, because her identity is her own, and we respect it, just like Gen Z is requiring us to.
Respect us for being different. Respect us for having, you know, a view. Respect us for having an opinion. Respect us to know that my mother made that move and that was cute then. I'm going to do that same move, but it's going to have a different bounce to it. Like, that's the part. And I think that was it. And your grandmother, like, is all for it. Like, I thought that was dope. I mean, it was powerful. Like, at the end of the day, your grandmother posted, like, I thought it was cute. And I said to myself, I was like, that's what they have. Like, my grandmother, we didn't have social media, but for her to post, it's like, oh, baby, go do a great job. And that was still powerful too. I'm not saying that it isn't for those of us that did have that relationship. But what I am saying is that to see that public affection from your grandmother and the community responds back from it, that's winning. That's winning.
It's big.
You know?
Big. I think what we had was our grandmothers. We knew we were dope if they told their friends about us.
Yes.
And we would come around their friends and they'd be like, oh, well, this is Kyra, you know, or this is Loretta.
Yes.
And I think that's what we had. We had that Mr. Telephone game that they played down at their friend's house.
Yes.
We knew it was good. And I'll say this too. This was really big. And I had another conversation with another super leader. And she asked me a question about the women in my life that influenced me. And I never really talked about it. And I mean, I was down to tears. And I'm like, man, I never thought about it. But these women are my aces, right? My aces. And what I realized is that they sold into me their way. You know, they told me I was beautiful. They asked me qualifying questions. They required me to show up and be vocal. And they didn't let me off the hook, even if I didn't see them other than, you know, the holidays. They sat me down and got into my head. And that's a powerful way to play as a young lady. And part of that was part of my resiliency building. And so I like to really talk about that when we talk about like the effects of not seeing yourself the way you've been designed to be seen. And that also, I think, trickled down in how in previous generations, like how businesses were passed down. This is why a lot of kids don't want to take on the family business, because I don't want to be like whatever that was. You know, but now you think about a Gen Z coming into the company And they're like, yeah, that's great, but let me get in early and let me influence concepts early, because this is what I think you need to modify, change, shift, or do.
Yeah.
And then now they're getting a business. If they want the legacy, if they want the
Yep.
family business, they're getting a business that they desire, they want, they believe in, and they're an influencer of. So it's about,
Correct.
I don't want to bring them in on my deathbed. I want them in now so we can
Correct.
be really resilient about what we're doing. So
Yes.
you hit
Yes.
something real powerful with
Yes.
that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. And to shift, right? And to shift and
Mhm.
be okay. Because I think, I was saying, just in my own team, I advocate for new ideas and, let's not keep doing the same stuff over and over again and creating that level of innovation. And it's crazy because we use the word innovation and I say we use innovation, we use it a lot, and we use diversity a lot. And so those two words, while we use it as part of our own core values, we said innovate. For me, when I came up, was I knew how to think out of the box, right? The word was innovation. Think out the box says, well, right, how can we talk to people all over the world but not have to travel? A podcast. That's innovation, right?
Right.
You think about diversity. We think in the world, right? We threw that word, which was once affirmative action, was, right? Oh, we need all Black people in the room. No, we need all people with diverse thought, right? People who have a different thought. Like, yeah, I'm Black. Yep. And actually, but my hair is brown. Your hair is pink. That's a different thought, because the way that the courage you have to go pink probably isn't the same courage I have. So to me, that's thought in a place of courageous thinking. And so I think that's the part that, when we think this thing out of blending them into the space, we don't really understand that each generation is getting better, but it goes back to the basics, right? Okay, that was at that point we had affirmative action. You bring Black people. Okay, I got that. We got that. Well, now you have powerful Black people at all ages. To me, all ages, all hair colors, all nails look different, right? It was coming up. Everybody had the same nails, red, brown. You know what I mean? It was all this. Now you can have one nail could be brown, one nail could be white, one nail could be orange. Like it could be whatever you want. So I think that's powerful. And so in your space, and we've been talking about B2B, I do want to dive into that. How are you helping to transform businesses to think out of the box and create that level of diversity and thought to be able to serve and, to me, be really a cross-functional leader, and that's your experience. Like, I just want to hear, because I know you came from corporate, right? And then launched your business, which that's for many Black women, we are either underpaid or undervalued, underappreciated. And so we decide, hey, I don't have to keep doing this. Let me start my own business. And so the one thing that I want to say on this season, we have to say, we love corporate. Let's be real, right? We're talking to businesses as like, no. We're clear. We love corporate. And so this isn't to take corporate out of it, but it is to get corporate leaders and people that do make decisions to understand that we have businesses that can help you innovate. Again, I use that word, think out of the box. And at the same time, would hit some of those diversity points, right? Thrusts that you have in creating this diversity of thought. Not only do I have an all woman owned firm, Black owned firm, but their staff looks very different. It's not all the same people, right? Thinking the same thing. So, from that standpoint, so I want to hear from you, in the space that you're doing. And certainly we'll share what you're doing with JP Morgan Chase and Company, and making sure that people really understand, because some people are afraid of corporate. So I'd love to hear your thought around how your company is really playing as a cross-functional leader in that space of corporate and business and, local small businesses.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm going to say that was loaded. So I was taking notes. So here's where what I'm going to tell you. First of all, I did 20 years in corporate America. And I say I did 20 years in corporate America. I learned. I worked in automotive design. I worked in healthcare. I worked in staffing. I
Yes,
worked in technology.
I love
And I
it.
did that working close to the operations at all times. And so thematically, I've always worked somewhere close to the people, the process, and the profitability model where I could impact it. And so that is really ultimately what became my core. But let me tell you, I was not, I had a nonprofit, but I never looked at myself as an entrepreneur with my nonprofit. And I still have it.
Mm,
Imagine Excellence is still thriving and doing the work within our community with our younger leaders, middle school, high school, and early college. But I never looked at that way. That was my passion work, right? That was the answer to me facing the 16-year-old me and saying, well, what can I do to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else? And so Imagine Excellence is that answer. So that's how I converted the challenge in my life into an opportunity for others. But then go into the transition. What my old boss used to say, you get returned to the community. I got returned to the community, lost my job, and I had a severance package. And so that meant that some conversations had to happen. And I literally for 9 months didn't have anything. And so for 9 months, I went on this up and down scale where I'm this six-figure, regional director working the Gulf Coast and distribution. And I'm looking around like, well, what can I do from here? And then from that point, what I realized is that I was already a CEO. And so I took some
mm,
things to help me transition. And then as I took those opportunities on to help me transition, I then took on the big value of going into business for myself. I realized I was doing that work already. So
mm,
how that works is I started with a company long before I got into entrepreneurship in corporate. I said, if I ever became an entrepreneur, I wanted a culturally diverse company. I remember seeing a marketing company that was so diverse and everybody had different kind of hair and different kind of people, and they had ideas and they were creative and they worked in open spaces. And that attracted me well before that was really the thing. And
mhm,
so I said, I always wanted an organization where people could thrive. I wanted the individuals to their personal goals to be just as important as the corporate goals. And so that might sound crazy, but I knew that that was going to require a different kind of approach to business. And so in the Kyra company, we are diverse in terms of our background, our approach. We are a company of Black women from different areas in the U.S. But I will say we have men that work on our roster on our consulting teams, and we work across a variety of industries. It was never we never set out to be truly just a 100% Black woman staffed firm, right? But
mm,
the talent that came, that it was attracted, this is the talent. We got the best of the best.
mhm,
And so as we continue to grow, that diversity in thought and idea, and generationally, we are dynamically diverse. And so that is, I think, where our greatest assets are. And we just brought in interns in the Gen Z space that are incredibly disruptive, and we're excited about them coming into our world as well. So that's where it really started internally. And then how that spills out is our clients, our small business clients, our small to mid-sized clients that are thriving in business, but they don't have a COO, they don't have a chief operating officer, they don't have an organizational development officer, they don't have the next step. So they're making money, but they have people issues, they have process issues, and they have profitability issues. And that causes a company that is seemingly doing well to really pause in a lot of spaces. It delays their ability to sell because they have insecurities about their operations. They're
mhm,
like, man, if I sell this, this project, or if I win this RFP, are we going to be able to handle it? And so you may
mhm.
not even realize it as a business leader, but you're staggering the progress of your business because you don't have strong operations. You just know that you can't trust that you're going to be able to be successful. And so you'll slow things down unintentionally, but subconsciously, your operations is not strong. And that's where our businesses really take off. Once we come into their organization, we're really a part of their fabric. We work with the CEO, we work with the senior leaders, and we build up their teams. We help them identify their hiring strategy. We help them evolve their mission, their vision, their value, their culture statement. And we help these businesses that have dreams of becoming, corporations and really becoming, major players in industry. We help them get there. And we go as far as for some of our clients is to support their business development process. And so we go from being a consulting partner to even being a profit sharing partner. And so our relationships go deep with our clients. And when we think about how that ties to our corporate clients, we need our corporations to be able to feed, right? We need to feed them with quality suppliers. And that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. So our corporations, that we're producing these amazing small businesses for, or making them eligible to be produced or to apply for opportunities, we're a partner in the process. We understand that you need to have strong small businesses so you can have strong larger firms, right? Because they support each other. It's the B2B exchange. It's the B2C exchange.
I think, and I love that when you open up, you said all of you went from like HR to, you healthcare, automotive. And I want to hear people to hear that, because I think that corporate diversity is so important to build out your company that could be a Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 company, so wanting people to understand that a lot of our B2B businesses, and I'm not going to say all of them, but I think a majority of them started with some level of corporate influence, right? I think because, you had to know that you were going into meetings is like, wait, I can do this.
There's an acumen, Loretta, that you have to have. And I'm going to tell you something funny. When I jumped out of corporate America, kind of part of my rebellion, when I was like, you know what, forget it. I was like the bob, the glasses. I had a gray suit, a blue suit, a black suit, a cream suit, right? Shoes to match. I was like from my 20s to my early 30s, I was really like the corporate picture. I was the avatar of a corporate woman. And I cut my hair. I dyed it blonde. I had a mohawk. I wore my blazers and jeans like as a point of rebellion. I don't know who cared at all, but I did. But one thing that never went away was what? My corporate acumen, my ability to negotiate and discuss topics at every level of the organization. I learned that very early on when I worked at GM Design. I understood just how important it was to understand the person responsible for maintaining the maintenance of our studios to the person that was responsible for making sure that our vehicles went through their gates at the right time and made it to the auto show for preview. Like, I understood that dynamic. So you talk top to bottom. When you can do that, that is a skill set that most people desire, right? So I had that ability, and I realized that was something people were drawn to. And so when you talk about, you said something earlier, when people meet you kind of out and about and they see this picture of whatever it is they have of you because they've seen you on your platforms or your website or your socials, or seen you speaking, and then they connect with you and they're like, wait a minute, you're actually pretty cool. And that actually happened. It was so funny. And a young lady walked up to me at an event and she said, Kyra, you don't know me, but I've been watching you. And she said, you know what? Oh my God, you're so approachable. You're so, I said, I'm regular. I'm not sure what you're looking for, but I understand the journey. I understand the steps, and I understand who got me here. So there's nothing about me that is dismissive of any of that. And it was so funny when she said it, she really had an epiphany. She's like, man, you're nothing like what I thought. And we laugh about it to this day. And right now that young lady's working on one of our largest projects with JP Morgan Chase. And let me capstone that. That's the largest financial institution in the world.
Yes.
And they're on our roster as our client. Small business. Small black business.
Come on. And that's the part that we have to, certainly understand, that there are corporations that are bringing small firms as part of their supplier channel. I know we talk about this a lot. You and I even had that conversation, and there are brands that are doing it. So let's not make it all, but there are brands that are doing it, and they are, meeting people where they are, making sure, because at the end of the day, and you and I talked about this when we first met, is, going into, doing this whole business thing is we ain't playing small. We want to buy houses and, and make sure our team can do the same thing. So it's not so much from the standpoint of like, it's an I, but it's a we, which goes back to our original, is creating that community, those friendships, those relationships, and so building on that. I do want to ask you this, Kyra. Tell me about policy. I don't meet a lot of sisters, and she is our sister. She is a member of AK. Yes, but we still are sisters. We are, and I love it because when we entered into that, we just loved on each other with that. And so I like for people to understand that sisterhood is real, even when we are in different social, groups. And that doesn't mean that we can't be each other's sister. And I think that's also important for us to be able to showcase and understand, because I think the world doesn't see like, I remember, and no disrespect, but this was a woman, and she was a white woman. And she was like, well, so you can talk to the other sisters? And I was like, yeah. Like, talk to them, go out to dinner. Yeah, we're not separate. But that was her view of it, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was her view. And probably her view might be from a school days or whatever. I don't know what it could have been. But I thought it was a valid question. And I was like, I don't feel offended. I get it and understand that. And I said, sometimes we just have to know that there's just not a lot of information out there that can point to that direction. And I say that in every way, because even with JP Morgan Chase in the program that they're doing, I think is also another indication of, I've heard people say, well, all these banks are doing all this stuff. Well, here's what we have to say. We asked for it. Now let's do it. We asked for it. Absolutely. We wanted them to pay for it. Like, pay attention to us. Like, we need money too. And they're all doing it. And I've heard people say, well, I mean, they're all doing it. Isn't that what we want? Right? Like,
it's like knowing, getting what you want and then understanding how to actually use it. It's two different things.
That's true. That's true.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna tie this concept up of making good friends early and learning how to be a relatable person that creates relationships. So having that relationship builder tool early on, it starts at the playground, so to speak, and learning how to use that throughout your life is a huge tool. It'll keep you networking, socializing, and building your support system. Not everyone will be in your inner circle, but that outer circle is really powerful. And when you learn how to do that young, it feeds and folds right into your advanced, stages of your years and your career. And so when you learn how to do that, that has been the piece, that has been the glue. And I want to say this to your listeners, not only obviously a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, not only that sisterhood, but then that sisterhood gets to see me in my corporate world or in my business world, still developing and using those same principles just as you do, Larvetta, right? And so that is the external. I'm who I am. And so I'm who I am, what I'm a part of, and what I do amplifies what's already within me. Some of that stuff you can't teach or align with. You have to be it. And that has to be your DNA. And so I wanted to say that it starts early. And so understanding that you need to connect, it's important. And not only do you need to connect, but you need to connect intentionally. And that builds. In COVID, I lost 50% of my client roster, which meant I lost 50% of my revenue. And I lost that coming out of one of the hardest years, which was 2019, after I went through a huge life change. And that was devastating. But you know how I stayed in business? Collaboration. Yep. My favorite process in the world is collaboration. And that's how you do the work. You work together with others to amplify the voice, your visibility, your revenue, your capacity. You scale through collaboration. And I want everyone to understand that when we created Resurgence, I got a phone call from Resurgence is the accelerator program that JP Morgan Chase has invested in, and that we're depositing very strongly in the Chicago market. And we're excited about the service-based providers, professionals, Black professionals that are going to get access to this program. And they are, we've partnered with their with their Advancing Black Pathways initiative, which is their dynamic initiative that's investing in Black businesses in a variety of ways, Black owners, Black communities, Black families, Black institutions. And that is a part of the funding chain that we're a part of for this particular installation in Chicago. The accelerator, the Resurgence Accelerator is designed to build the business, right? This is education. One of the things we learn, you know why banks are engaging? Because they realize that the education, the lack of education, the miseducation of minority-led businesses is massive. And that's causing the delay in our access to funding now. Now that we know, or now that we have some access, or we know somebody that does, right? We're getting into the lane of understanding how to get it. And some of us get it really well, some of us don't. But the issue that we have that's universal, that is unchanged, is education. And education is triggered, or I should say, education is triggered by a dynamic mindset. And so those are the things that we're missing and that we need to build and reinforce amongst each other and in our businesses. And so we can make a lot of money. We can do it. We know how to make money. But let me tell you what we have a hard time doing: sitting and learning. And that's what that program is going to do for you. You learn, you implement, and you move on. Delegate. That's how you build and scale. And Resurgence is designed to do that. And it was designed. I got a call. I got a challenge. Kyra, find out what we can do so these businesses don't fail out here in COVID. And I thought to myself, you called me for this? And that was a call from the Women's Business Center here in Houston. And I got off the phone and I looked around and I was like, well, Lord, I got the phone call, so I guess I better figure out what she wants me to do. And I just started typing, literally. I said, what can I use as my case study to figure it out? And it was my nonprofit, my oldest company. And I was like, it's going to fail because the schools are my customer and we can't go to school. So my failure, my exposure, my threat was huge. And that's what we did. We started working on it, and I tapped into a collaborative network of women that I've been working with. And one of them named it. I named the program, and then the others joined in later, and we started to write the curriculum. And that was how we did it. It's a 100% collaborative program. It's delivered by expert entrepreneurs, collaboration, relationships. Make them last, make them important, and make them stick, because this is how you get to do this great work. And now I don't even know what the count is of how many businesses we get to employ through this engagement. With JP Morgan Chase.
I mean, it's huge. And I think it's important because, I share with folks who I mentor, and they always say, how did you get here? And I said, by failing, right? I didn't get here by doing everything right. But I do think that the difference now versus then, if someone who's been at this for 23 years.
Yes, ma'am.
I still am learning, right? So I'm never stopped. So when you said sitting and learning, that's actually kind of my thing. Like, I love to sit and learn and stay a learner. And I think the difference that I say is that with businesses is the same way we hear at church, you got to get out from the four walls. With businesses, get off the computer and get out of there. Because even when I think about my e-commerce brands, right? You're busy looking, right? Seeing people, purchase, bam, 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 bam. But realizing though, as you're watching, there's a whole lot of other things that you're missing. And so being able to sit and learn and get away from it really helps you to know, can the business work without you? And I remember, this was several years ago, I met with a VC, and, for those, having to do our EBITDA, having to understand what our valuation, like all this stuff was new. I didn't grow up like that. I just didn't. I was like, what? And I was thinking to myself, like, this is for smart people. I didn't get in business for the EBITDA. I was like, wait, hold up. And so he was like, what are you talking about, Larva? Like, but I had never heard of these terms. I had never been exposed, but I had to come out of the business, come out of it and go and sit with someone. And when I sat and learned what what your SWOT is, right? What a pesto looks like, all of that stuff you do for business, but you haven't done for you. And,
That's right.
you know, it's the hairstylist that don't get their hair done. It's the nail tech that doesn't get their nails done. No, it doesn't work.
Listen, Resurgence is the program that you plug into your business and say, just go, because it's like, literally it's the financial, it's learning how to establish a strategic plan.
Yes.
When was the last time you did a comprehensive strategic plan that forecasts your business?
Yes.
That you were able to look at your cost of sales, your cost of services, your COGS, which is what that number is, and on your P&L, be able to tie it back. Are you in alignment? What's your margin? Are you eating your margin with time? Are you eating your margin with resources? Are you paying people too much? Do you understand your exit strategy? Do you have one? What are you going to do when you get a phone call that says, hey, we'd like to buy your business?
Yeah.
I'll call this was my little status check. I said, I'm officially getting the emails that say, hey, we'd like to buy your business.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, what database did you look at? Because I just filed my taxes. So I don't know what you saw, but you were on it. You know, what conversation is that? How do you have it? Do you even know if you're ready for exit? What's your strategic alliance plan? What's your process? And so if you didn't come into this thing with a strategy, and I know we came in with a model.
That's right.
And we're implementing the model. We've just got to a place where we can implement we'll call it the third stage of our model, which is going to be our most profitable stage of our model. But we just got here, Larvetta. So if we didn't have a strategic plan coming in, thanks to my corporate acumen, and if I didn't know how to read a P&L left and right, then I would be struggling to figure out, is this even doable? What does that look like? So, I mean, kudos to you for even recognizing it was time to have the big growth conversations. But businesses making money is not enough. We are building legacies for our family, our community. Yeah, we're going deeper than this.
We cannot that is so true. And it's such so that's why when I said to, women, men, I'm like, there's so much resources now. This program is dynamite. I know this to be true because this sister that we have is amazing and passionate about it. And it's going to be traveling. So, it's going to go into other markets. They're going to expand on the reach. So I just want to make sure that if you're listening, that you go to resurgentaccelerator.com. That is accelerator.com to learn about it. I know that by the time you all hear this, the application will have closed. However, what I'm challenging you to do, and I say challenge because I think we all need to be challenged, is join their list. Join so that you will know when the next one comes out, because they're not stopping. You heard what they're not stopping. And so they have an incredible partner and sponsor that they're working in. So go to the website, guys, put your email address in there so that you can stay informed on what's happening. And I'm excited. I'll throw it in there to be one of the facilitators to work with Kyra on this, because I want to tell you all about relationships. And she opened up because you all know relationships are our currency as a business and as a core value. A friend of mine who I absolutely adore, admire, who has been on the show, Miss Jack, was on the show, Jack Campbell, you guys. She reached out to Kyra. Kyra reached out, right? You reached out to Jack. Hey,
Jack and I went to high school together.
You went to high school together. Now, Jack and I have known each other maybe like 8 years. And so watch her go from leaving, corporate to starting her own business. And I've been able to support her and advocate her in so many different ways because she is my sister as well. And so she said, hey, you need to know. And she reached out. Guess what? She was in Chicago. We met. We went for coffee. And here we are, guys. So I need you all to, and here we are. So this all happened this year.
That's right.
And so knowing that is that one contact, that one friendship that you have, that you need to connect to someone else, get out of your head. Because sometimes that's what we do. Well, I don't want to ask. I don't want to do this. Get out of your head. And I will say this. And the other thing is making these connections, those that are in this place of corporate. The other part that I want to add to Kyra on this, because people don't see the value in this. Oftentimes when you're in these accelerator cohort programs, yes, you are there to glean, learn, and become a student. And you're also, notice I said but, because I don't like the word but anymore. I want to say more and you get to network with other businesses.
Yes,
that's
our
the
community
value.
is amazing.
That is the value that you get to have. So while you're sitting there, I don't know an accountant. There's probably one in the cohort. Oh, I don't know someone with HR. Okay, there's probably one in the cohort. Oh, I don't know someone, we want to buy some real estate. There's probably one. So literally, you now, just the way I think of those when I do it, you now have an advisory board. You've just created your advisory board. Hey, I don't know if I should do this. Now so that's the part that's the other part that I absolutely love, being part of accelerators and cohorts. And, people tell me, Larvetta, you stay in school. I only stay in school when corporations, look, when they pay for me to be there. I'm being real clear. Right. What's not going to happen, no, Kyra, and this is on the record, I'm not going and I'm paying. Okay. So just so you know, right. I'm only going because they're going to give me a scholarship. They're going to give me a stipend. They're going to give me something. And I'm going to go and I'm going to put in all the time, the effort, whatever I need to do to get there. That is who I am to the core. So I am excited as we move into this story. I just want to give an opportunity for you to just share where people can connect with you, find you, hear about the program, et cetera. I know I gave them a little bit. I certainly gave them a little bit, but I want to make certain that you also share as well.
Absolutely. So resurgenceaccelerator.com is what we'd love for you to click on and get more information. And Larvetta, you were right. Get on the mailing list. Our 2024 calendar is building, and we will let you know which city has been commissioned for the next cohort, but not only which city, but where else we're going to do more development. Small business development and growth is what we do. So no matter what, that's what we do all day long, with or without a cohort. That's our business. And so you can reach us there. You can also go to the KyraCompany.com, the KYRA company.com, spell it all out, the KYRA company.com. And you can meet us there and you can click around and learn more and set up a consultation. We do a 30-minute consult at no cost so we can understand how to serve you best. And, as we bring this conversation to a close, I just want to say thank you, to your listeners, to your team for being so committed to the necessity of bringing information to our business owners that's going to continue to increase the quality of the business they do and the revenue they generate and how they use it, and to continue to stimulate the economy and their communities specifically. And so, a huge shout out to Jack Campbell of Alexander Legacy, private wealth management. Like, she's in the money business. That's a money girl, is what I call her.
She is definitely a money girl. I'm so glad I know her, girl. I'm so glad I know her.
That is the work. So, Larvetta, I am so grateful for this time that I've had with you, and I just really want to thank you for it.
Oh, thank you. And you all know that, it takes a while for me to get these business boss babes on, but when they do come in, and they come in sparking. They bring some spark to the show. So I'm grateful. But as we close, Kyra, we want to ask you, why do Black businesses matter?
Because our experience, our community, our kids, our legacy, our families, our economy, our political policies, we guide that. That's why they matter. We are the leaders of that. We lead and we do business with a kind of a tenacity and compassion. And I don't know, there's just a thrill of the chase that we have, that we bring to the party, that is dynamic. Black businesses just do it. We do it good. And I use that on purpose. And I just think that's why we matter. We matter because we're the fabric of the economy. I don't care what you say or how you look at it. Small business drives the U.S. economy. Black businesses are we're the fabric. We're the wraparound. And so more access we have, the more connections we make, the better. Obviously, we're going to be as a collective.
Yes, we are the fabric. Ooh, that just made me feel all good inside, guys. Yes. Just literally, it does. It makes me want to say that's I love when people answer that question, because I promise you, I say this every time, Kyra, like, it gives me chills. It literally does. Because right now the fabric, like, I'm like thinking about it being wrapped around my entire body, and it just feels amazing. Like you said, it just feels good. It just feels good. So thank you for that. So Kyra, what brings you joy?
Well, I will say walking in my purpose and peace. I mean, that's what brings me joy. Walking in my purpose and peace. And that's just my non-negotiable. So my purpose is the call that I have to our community, to my family. It's all congruent. I get to stay here, and that's what brings me peace.
That's awesome. And again, my reason, for blending this question, and I sometimes do it, guys, for those of us that's been rocking with us, you hear that question throughout every interview. But I will tell you the reason why was because I had an interview years ago, and we said that Black joy wasn't represented because we talk about the struggle so much, and that we didn't understand as Black individuals and entrepreneurs that we were given permission to share our joy. And so the fact that we get on here and feel that joy, right, and hear that joy from others gives us the opportunity to say, I can share my joy and not have to always walk in the door with my struggle and what I had to do, right, to get in the building or to get into that class or to start that business or to travel. You know what I mean? That's the part that we haven't. And so that was an important element around businesses, because we don't understand that most of us, and I say most, I'm probably about 80% of us, we find joy in doing what we've been called to do in our businesses. And so that's the important part. So Kyra Rénel, this has been absolutely outstanding. I knew it would. It took us a while, but I'm happy because you being a part of this season of B2B as a player, as a corporate leader, as a corporate player, as a corporate advocate, and now helping, and your company is helping small businesses to access different resources and tools so that they too can be leaders in their own industry. And I think that is so profound in the way that you're building on that bridge. And so I'm excited for it and excited to be able to collaborate with you. And I love that you used that. That was kind of like, if there was just a thing that's, coffee brings people together, but what brought me and Kyra together was our passion for collaboration. And that was the thing that we talked about, like, how can we collaborate? How can we work together? And that was so powerful. And so I'm grateful for you to be able to also be that woman that is the woman of your word. Because that's the powerful thing that, hey, I met with you. Yep, we going to do this. And you know that because, right, you talk to people and then you don't hear from them. Not to say that makes me feel sad or anything, but it does happen, right? So just being that woman of excellence and that woman of your word just speaks volume. So guys, this is one lady that you should connect with. Make sure that you're connecting with her on her various channels. She is also on LinkedIn as Kyra Rénel, right? Kyra, is that right? Kyra Rénel.
Absolutely. Kyra, Renel. Yes, you can connect with me across every channel. And we talk back, and myself, my team, we're all connecting intentionally. So please don't hesitate to chime in. If you need something, tap into the community. We have access, and we love to share it. We're the folks that love to get you going into the direction that, is going to really make the life change for you that you've been desiring in your business. So absolutely. We want you thriving around us.
I love it. Yay. So guys, thank you all for tuning in for another episode. Make sure you connect with Kyra Rénel, guys, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer, marketing, and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.